Is this thing on? What's up, babies? Welcome back to another episode of Dumb Blonde. Today, we have a man whose voice built stadiums, whose songs raised generations, and whose hair alone deserves to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's not just a rock star. He's Jon freaking Bon Jovi.
Thank you, babe. What an intro.
Listen, you have done so many interviews. I was so nervous because I was just like, what do you ask a man who has had thousands upon thousands of interviews and has been asked every question that you could possibly ask them, you know?
Yeah, we'll find a lot to talk about.
Oh, today. I did. I dug.
Okay.
I watched your documentary. It's called Thank You, Good Night.
Yes.
Extremely moving documentary. The highs, the lows. I mean, I was cheering, I was crying, I was pissed off at the manager. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on. And I was just like, this is such a beautiful testament to your life. Like, when you look back at that documentary, you have to feel nothing but just absolute pride.
Thank you. I saw Gotham Chopra last night, who I haven't seen in quite a while. And I'm proud of the piece. And I think the goal is to be proud of the piece in 10 more years from now, you know, but at this moment in time, I think it encapsulates that 40 years and that he got the truth, the unvarnished, not glossy hurt.
First,
and, you know, and the joy, but the hurt.
He did an amazing job of just showing your story. And, you know, as I was watching it, there were so many things about you that just captivated me. And I know that, you know, people have told you that throughout the years, but I just saw a man that was so tenacious, that was willing to do anything that he could to make it to where you are today. And then I thought to myself, because I could see like your low points too, and I was just like, where does this man draw joy from? You know, after accomplishing so much in this world, like, it's got to be hard after all of these goals that you have accomplished to just have joy for them and to find joy. Where do you find it?
That's a very good question, and one that I probably couldn't have answered in 20, 30, 40s. That it's after 60 that I started to think about that. Because I think when I was coming up and growing up and fighting for our place, it was always nose to the grindstone, looking straight down, never taking the time to look at the beautiful clouds in the sky, if you know what I mean, metaphorically speaking. And I was really guilty of that. But it was like the part of me that wouldn't accept the success, the part of me that was afraid of losing the success, the part of me that, you know, as a businessman realized how hard it is to get it, so you have to keep it.
Right.
And that even if, you know, the contributions of others really mattered, the truth was, unless I was driving the car, we were never going to get there. So you know, I had to work 2 shifts. And then on more than one occasion throughout the 4 decades, I would burn out. And I'm still trying desperately now in this vocal comeback to only do it if I have joy. If it's work, I really don't want to do it.
How will you know?
I unfortunately don't.
So you won't know until you walk back on that stage.
Yeah, and it's then it becomes the yin and the yang of it. You know, I love the idea of performing. If I'm healthy, nothing better. And like I say in the doc, if you realize during that short tour in 22 where I basically tried to will it back into existence, not knowing that the surgery was just not an option, it was a necessity. Literally every word of every song I was singing, but my brain was saying, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, good, not good, yes, no, yes, yep. Every note of every song. It was killing me.
It was a battle.
It was a terrible battle.
I was going to wait till later on in the interview, but let's talk about this journey that you've been going on with your vocal cords for people who are just tuning in and not maybe even knowing about the journey or not even having watched the documentary. You just went through a serious surgery to have your vocal cords repaired because one of them was in atrophy.
Yeah.
Which for somebody who doesn't drink, somebody who doesn't smoke, somebody who literally lived their life preserving their vocal cords, the one thing that you cherished and babied is being taken from you. Can you take me on that journey?
It's a long talk.
Yeah.
But in truth, and in the short Reader's Digest version, it started 2014. I wasn't aware of it. It was trauma. By 2015, it just wasn't working right, and I wasn't quite sure.
When you say trauma, is it from not warming up properly? Or?
No, it was ancillary things like business and relationship. Richie leaving the band.
Gotcha. Yeah, which we'll get to that.
Business deal. I wanted to do the record, contract. There was a lot of business on my head as well as personal toil. Hence the gray.
Nah, but you're a silver fox, and you know it too.
By that point, I just said, fuck it. I'm going to have gray hair and it's cool with me. I don't want to pretend to be something I'm not. So
Jay has a little gray hair in his beard and I'm like, grow it out by Salt and Pepper King. Do it, baby.
Well, he may live to regret it when you get on the other side. But
no,
okay.
My dad was a musician and he dyed his hair black until the day that he passed away, and it just starts looking weird at a certain
and
point.
That's what any logical conversation is.
So you're doing the right thing.
Well, this started to happen in 15, and I couldn't really understand why. And in 16, and we did a much shorter tour on an album called This House Is Not For Sale, which was very successful and it was the #1 record and all that kind of good stuff. But something was still going on. So that by the time I got to 22, and now it's COVID and the world shuts down, I'm just saying, okay, I can will this thing back. And it just got to a point where I came off that stage in Nashville that night and I said to Dorothea, it was good. And she goes, it wasn't good. And she's the only one on the planet that I know is not going to bullshit me. You're either surrounded by yes men or people that are getting paid, or a fan, or somebody that wants you to be good.
Yes.
And you do your best. But who's, the confessional box? It's her. She's going to tell you, sorry, it didn't work. So I ran to the doctor. I drove myself to the hospital. And that's how eager I was to start this journey. I didn't know it was going to be 3+ years of recovery. I can tell you that honestly, I'm singing really well, but something can trip the wire and take me down the rabbit hole. So,
how is that mentally on your soul? Like, is that just so your voice has always been your prized possession. So to have to, one, get a surgery that has taken you 3 years to recover from, that brutally also, because you've talked about all the holistic ways that you've tried to heal it. You have done everything you can and at this point, it's pretty much in God's hands.
Right.
Does that scare you, or are you so content now with everything that you've accomplished that you're able to sit down and maybe sit this one out if you had to?
I can absolutely, with conviction, tell you that if I didn't perform again, my legacy's set. I'm cool with it.
Oh, for sure.
I'm fine.
You're
great.
Jon Bon Jovi.
I'm good. We're an awesome live band. We've sold a lot of records. I'm good. I'm good.
Spiritually,
I don't need the applause.
Mm-hmm.
I don't yearn for the applause. I never was that guy.
Right.
I know a lot of performers who don't like to sit at home with their loved ones and live for a suitcase. Not me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be totally fine with that. The only bitch that I had in this process was, okay, God, you took it away. Why? Let's fight to get it back, because there could be some great joy and light that I could shine and is reciprocated from that audience that hears that. But only if it's that. Mm-hmm. And if it's not because of the applause. It's not because of the money. It's not because of the fame. I'll miss that, but I don't need that. So I don't care. I really don't care.
So you'd be okay with just diving into would you ever just relax? Because one thing do you know how to relax? Because one thing I've noticed in the documentary and just knowing your hustle just from being in the music industry with my husband is you are a go-getter. Like you don't sit down. Like, do you know how to even relax?
I was a go-getter. When I first met Jelly, I loved what I heard on the record. Then I saw the man perform. Then I got to meet him. But then one of the first things we did was I interviewed him for Interview Magazine. And in the magazine, I said to him, don't do too much. Don't go chasing every rainbow because you're going to burn out and you won't even know you're burned out. And in my youth, I was absolutely doing that. And that is my fear for him still today.
We need you
Jelly, don't do too much.
We need you to talk to him again because I tell him that all the time. I'm like, babe, please, like just sit down.
He's established. He's a big star. He's done it. He's proved it. He's an inspiration to millions of people. You don't have to chase every feature. You don't have to do every show. Go and chill for 2 years. Right. I have absolutely learned how to do that out of necessity, but also because it's that place in life.
Right.
Your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s are different chapters.
Right.
You know, this chapter is a different chapter.
In the opening of the documentary, you're going through hundreds of videos, like VHSs, not even just videos, VHSs, cassette tapes. Like this generation of kids never could even understand or fathom the joy of being able to like record your own radio songs. And like, I don't know, it's just a different
era.
Yeah, different era. Would you ever consider releasing some of those songs? You are?
Oh, yeah. We're in the midst of it. We have a Sirius radio channel that we slip them into. And, you know, record companies just don't mean what they used to. And so, because I have, I don't know, 40 or 50 songs that I forgot.
Right.
That, you know, we could put out on records. That we're just leaking them out this way because the record company is what they are. But yeah. Those we archived everything, the clothes, the trophies, to the notebooks, to the cassettes, because at 40 years you had to. Or let's say we wanted to.
To be so ahead of your time, to know to save all of that stuff and to just like, your mind is magical. Like it really is so cool, like how just smart you are and just how business savvy, like it's really insane. You're almost like kind of like an Einstein when it comes to the music industry.
Not true.
Definitely a trendsetter though, because you were doing a lot of things before people were doing it.
Yes, it is the norm now to be your, you know, own your masters and be your self-managed and all that kind of stuff, which I found interesting because we stumbled on that some 30 years ago and it was beneficial.
But even starting your own management company, like back then also, like no artist was doing that. Like you literally have always just been kind of like the pioneer of like what people should be doing.
Well, thank you. That's a very kind way to put it. I think it was born out of, not necessity, it was born out of my witnessing that people could do the job well and get paid for the job, but who was going to be more passionate than you?
Right.
Who's going to care more?
Exactly.
And we couldn't find that guy that was going to care more. So starting BJM was advantageous.
It's amazing. So let's take it back for like the younger generation that listens to my podcast, and let's go all the way back to to New Jersey, where you were born, and let's talk about your household that you grew up in, because your mom was a florist, but I just learned a really cool detail that your mom was actually also one of the original Playboy bunnies. Yeah. Like, how cool is that?
Let me compound it. My mother and father met in the Marines.
Oh my gosh.
She was like the poster girl in the Marine Corps.
Oh.
You know, and so they met as Marines, and she ran away, well, didn't run away, but she couldn't wait to enlist, and said that the Marine Corps was nothing compared to her childhood. So she went and joined the Marines.
Wow.
Meets my pop.
That's a hell of a woman.
And then she becomes a bunny.
No.
After. So she's married. I don't think I'm born yet, or I was just born. And with Lauren Hutton, and Diane Lane, the actress's mother, and a woman whose husband was Scott Muni, who's a legendary DJ in New York from back in the day. They were all like the original Playboy bunnies in the club on 57th, 8th Street in Manhattan.
That's such a piece of lore that people would not know about you. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. I've seen pictures of her, like, with Sinatra and the whole thing, with my dad there and my uncles there, and all hanging out in the Playboy Club.
That's so cool. I was just about to say, like, for your dad to let your mom shine like that
there.
too, especially back in that era, though. Like, housewives were not being Playboy bunnies.
It's 1961, 2, 3, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, for your dad to be like, go ahead, let's go. Like, that's awesome. But also, your dad was a hairdresser too, right?
Yes.
Did he do your hair?
Sure.
Okay. I had to ask because I saw a couple interviews where you said you did it, and I was like, there's no way he was cutting his hair like that.
Well, there was what year are we talking about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
gotcha. In the beginning.
Of course.
Okay. So he's the one who originated the long hair.
Well, as much as I'd love to give him credit for that, it was a decade. It was the 80s. Where he was good at what he did. But that was the decade. That was the look. But yes, my dad was a hairdresser, and he did do my haircuts early on. Absolutely.
And then who started doing them after you? You didn't really.
No, you hired a hot girl.
There you go.
Yeah.
He's like, I had to have a hot hairdresser. So let's talk about how you got into music, because you didn't grow up in a musical household.
No.
It was a very unlikely person that inspired you, which I thought was really cool. Can we talk about that?
Sure. Like any kid, you want to be a baseball player, an astronaut, or a rock and roll star, right? It's simple dreams for a simpler time. And like any other kid, I was strumming a broomstick, and a guy moved in across the street, and he was the hip young parent, and he offered to give me a guitar lesson. To teach me what a song structure was and playing a cover song or two. And I did not pay attention. I wasn't a very good student until he yelled at me. And when he yelled at me, he said, "Don't waste my fucking time." It was sort of what I needed, because that's what made me go home and learn the songs to come back the next week. And the guy didn't give guitar lessons. He was just a hardworking, I think he was an architect and or a designer, something kind of engineer. And he played in the lounge band on the weekends. But to me, that was a band, right?
Yeah.
And so he taught me, and he taught another young boy in the neighborhood who started a band called Skid Row that came after us. But so two guys went on to make records and sell a lot of records.
Wow.
Between us, and he only had 3 students ever.
That's
two
amazing.
Of which made records. So he was a sweetheart of a guy. He died far too young. He died 30 years ago. So he died young. And
did he pass before he got to see your journey?
No, in 95. So we were like 11 years into making records.
Cool.
No, he was there to witness a lot of it.
That's so special.
Yeah, sweet guy.
One of the traits that I've noticed about you too is that you bring people with you. I love that about you, like people from your past or like people that you grew up with, like you always try to bring them with you or like involve them in some way in your life or like, just be in your business even. And I think that's such an admirable trait.
Well, there are a number that are still around. Yeah, I mean, my brother's behind you. Young Louie over there, my assistant and right-hand man. My best friend, Obie O'Brien, since before I made records when I was like 18 years old. He's still our recording engineer. So there are still a number of them around, which is good. And, also the loyalty of Tico and of Dave and of Hugh McDonald and those guys that were here forever and through this 3 years and, sitting in rehearsals when it was painful for me to try to work these last 3 years, but they were there and it's greatly appreciated.
You remind me so much of my husband. Like there's so many similarities between you and him.
I thought so.
Yeah. You guys are definitely kindred souls.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely.
Except he throws his phones away and doesn't get back to me, but I won't take that person.
All you have to do is text me.
I'm going to get your number now because
me.
This way I'll get a hold of the son of a bitch.
Anybody who wants to get
I knew not to be offended.
Never. No. Anybody who wants to get a hold of my husband always talks to me and I get it straight to him and he always responds right away. But he really does stay off his phone so much.
That's good.
I had said this earlier, but watching the documentary, I had found so many traits of you that I just absolutely adored, and one of them was your tenacity. Where do you think that hunger and that for just life came from? Because that's not something that can be taught. That's something that's instilled in you.
Dorothea says in the doc, I would will things to happen.
Manifesting.
And I think that it largely came from my parents, if only because, and this isn't to be wisecracker about it, the drinking age in New Jersey was 18. Mm-hmm. So you could be 16 and 17 and sneak into a club. Mm-hmm. At that time, you didn't have a lot of responsibility. And so, you could play in a bar. While I was cutting my teeth playing in those bars underage, I started to get good enough to at least where my parents said, okay, if you're going to be at a bar until 2 a.m. on a school night, at least we know where you are.
Right.
And we know that you're doing this with a goal in mind. So it's good to have had their support. Mm-hmm. And then, truthfully, as I sit here at 63 years old, I can tell you now that I realize my mother would be the one to say, this is the smart decision. Learn about this. I would tell her an influence and she'd say, well, that's nice, but listen to your influence's influence. Mm. And to say that to a young kid, you go, oh, right.
Yeah.
And that's where you learned history of music.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Dumb stuff like that was really important.
Yeah, no, but it look where it got you. So talking about these underaged clubs that you were playing in and drinking in, let's go to Asbury Park. My father is actually from Kew Gardens, Queens, and we grew up with a mad respect for Asbury Park because he played out there also. Oh. Tell me about your relationship with Bruce Springsteen and meeting him for the first time and just getting involved in that whole era.
Well, if you're from here, that's the Mount Rushmore of the rock and roll scene in New Jersey. Obviously, there's Frank Sinatra, who would be, God, but
right.
Bruce would certainly be George Washington, and on Mount Rushmore, and
I love that you put Frank Sinatra as God over yourself and Bruce Springsteen.
Oh God, no! I'm nothing more than the next generation or the prince, as I say. He's there. Bruce is the king.
Yeah.
No. First and foremost, so Bruce was what put New Jersey rock and roll as we know it, not Frankie Valli and not going back to Frank Sinatra at the Bobby Soxers, but contemporary rock and roll, early 70s.
Yes.
Put it on the map. And so if his first record was 1973, I was only 11 years old. But by the time that 78, 79, I was sneaking in those clubs. So also, there were 7 members of the E Street Band. Mm-hmm. There were 10 members of the Asbury Jukes. So chances are one of 17 was going to be in the bar
right.
to see you play.
Right.
And you would meet them and you would befriend them, or they would mentor you, or you could just stand there in awe of them. Mm-hmm. So, it was pretty neat to see your heroes in person, because when the posters on my wall were Led Zeppelin or, AC/DC or the Kinks or something that was impossible. It was a poster. 25 miles south of my house was In the Day We Headed Out on the Streets of Our Own America. That was down the street.
Right.
When he talks about sort of the Highway 9, that was out my window. So that made the impossible possible. And that was very inspirational, because you thought you could make the impossible possible. And so the years go on. Of course, we meet. Of course, we get to know each other a little bit. As our relationship goes on, and he's one of, 2 celebrities in the whole 4-part doc, he and Southside Johnny, because they were so influential to me as a kid. And Johnny produced some of the first demos I ever did, where Bruce jumps up on stage with me when the next morning I go to high school.
That's insane. Yeah. What a story to tell.
And you're telling your teacher, I got bigger plans.
Yeah. I don't even need to be here.
Well, it was a dumb way to be, to behave, even though, in retrospect, you could have, should have been. But
youth.
It was a great story.
Yeah, for sure.
And pictures to prove it. So, as we've grown and grown up and he's been a big brother now, even at this point in my life.
He's so supportive.
We're very close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome. It was beautiful to see. I was actually surprised to see him in the documentary, which I don't know why, because you guys are New Jersey boys, but it was just really cool to see. And it just reminded me of a really cool time in music that I wish we could go back to.
Very special time here because the scene down there also supported original music, which was not like anywhere else. Nashville, I came to know 10 years later, obviously, fostered songwriting.
Right.
And I always say about Nashville now, those are my people.
Yeah.
But here in Asbury, they encouraged you to write your own stuff and play original music, and they supported it, which was what it's all about.
Let's talk about writing your own music, because before you did start, I mean, you've always written your own music, but you had a cover band named Atlantic City Expressway. And there was, how many members were there? 10, because I noticed there was a trend. Everybody had big groups back then.
Horns.
Yeah. Is that what that was?
Yeah, I had 5 horns.
Yeah. Do you still have horns?
No.
No, you got rid of them?
No. But back in the day, in truth, I was emulating Southside Johnny.
Gotcha.
They were just such inspirations to me. There's a sign over your shoulder that the cameras probably don't see, but see the reflection. It is the cover of their 4th album called The Jukes. Aww. And as that sat in a warehouse, Johnny said, "You can have it." So that's what that is. But I was playing R&B and soul music and Asbury juke music and Bruce music and a little bit of rock and roll that would work with horns. But I was 18. I'm playing in a nightclub one night. I'm opening for a band that to me came off like the Muppet version of the E Street Band. And I know even at 18, I am the Muppets of the Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. And the guy comes into my dressing room and goes, "Johnny, I know everyone says you're pretty good. Well, you should be like me." And I'm thinking to myself, you're trying to sound like Bruce. You look like Bruce. There's only one Bruce. I know I'm 18, but I'm not dumb. I looked at my own band. I said, "I quit." And I walked out of my own band. And I went and I asked the guy that had an original band, "You need a singer. I could be your guy. I want to be in an original band." And from there, I started to learn the process of writing. Initially from him, and then started doing it more and more and more. Because that band was very short-lived. But I knew to get the hell out of being in the Muppets.
But how cool is that you knew the trajectory of what you wanted? You were like, you know what? I'm singing cover songs. I'm about to just go and be my own person. And then you went and you got a job at a radio station.
A recording studio.
A recording studio. I'm so sorry.
I was a gopher.
I went and got a job there, but then you got to see so many iconic legends like Aerosmith and tons of other people, Diana Ross,
yeah.
Just so many other people, and you got to learn kind of your chops from them. Like you soaked up everything that you could in that recording studio.
Well, I did what I could, because when you're the gopher, you're asked to bring the beer and the burgers in and then to leave. Mm-hmm. But what I remember, the biggest thing that I learned then and there was the bigger the star, the nicer the person.
No,
it was the people that were the B and the C players who usually acted as such, and Mick Jagger and Keith Richards were unbelievably cool.
Dude, that's so cool.
And Little Steven and the E Street Band obviously knew me and were incredibly cool. There were people that were on the B and the C and they didn't no longer exist, that would absolutely demean, the burger's cold and the beer's warm, just, man, I got it as quick as I could. That kind of stuff. So while I was really nothing more than the gopher, I was cutting demos late at night and on weekends and figuring it out. Mm-hmm. Going to a radio station was revolutionary. That to me was the brilliance, because I thought, who's the loneliest man in the music business? A DJ. Mm-hmm. Who loves music more than a DJ? If he doesn't have an audience, he doesn't have anybody with him, he's telling you about something.
Right.
And that's all he's doing. He doesn't even know who he's talking to. And I was fortunate enough to go to this radio station that was so new they didn't have a receptionist. Mm. And the DJ himself came out and he said, wait, came after the shift. I played him Runaway. He says, it's a hit. And I said, I know, but no one will get back to me. They put it on the radio in New York, and that was it. I got a record deal.
That's amazing. I actually had a question about the song Runaway because that is my favorite song of yours. It
wow.
It resonates with me so much because of a former life that I had. And you said in the documentary that you wrote it about the working girls on the street.
Sure.
Did you ever talk to any of those girls?
Yeah, small talk, because we'd be, in the bus station. I knew I had the good fortune of having come from a home with two parents. And, I was taking that bus just to walk 15 blocks up to the studio. I wasn't hanging out at the Greyhound station. I was coming in on mass transit and walking up to the studio. So I would talk to the boys and the girls, and then, ended up supporting Covenant House, for example, around the block years later because of the stories I would hear, or the tricks that New York was pretty seedy at the time, and that inspired the song.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, because I got to walk north and they weren't.
Yeah, I never knew the lure of that song or why it resonated so much with me, even as a child. And it was just like, it's crazy that, the trajectory of my life that it took. So you literally took this cassette tape and put it in the hands of people, and it got into the hands of the right person from, was it WAPP radio station, and they're the ones that started playing it, and then your career just starts taking off from here.
Yeah.
How do you feel in this moment? Because you've been working so hard since you were, a kid, pretty much, trying to get to this moment. Are you happy, or do you just want more?
Well, you didn't know what more was. You were happy, but of course you wanted more, because I don't think in the moment anyone celebrates you or it.
Right.
Because you're in the midst of signing a record deal. You're in the midst of releasing a record. You're in the midst of being out there in the world, but you're a support actor, or you're playing in a club with your first record. So none of it really catches up to you for a while. And I was absolutely guilty, like I said, as we started the interview, of looking at my shoes, too focused on tomorrow,
right,
to enjoy the todays. By the time we got to Slippery When Wet, which really was a historically big record, I should have truly been taking it in, and I was not. It was the burnout that all came with it, because you were so anxious to do it again, to prove it again, to, how do I top this? Oh my God, you can't. Yes, I can. It was murder. But that's okay. I think at 25, 26, you should still have that fire and piss and vinegar.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your relationship with Richie Sambora, because he comes on the scene after you guys meet and you bring him into the band.
Yeah.
I just feel like there is so much love between you guys, and you've always been so diplomatic in your answers with him, and I really respect that. But there's also another side of competitiveness and more on his side of ego, possibly. And I don't know the man, so I'm just saying what I see. Take me on that journey with you guys' complex relationship through the years, if you can.
I will try to do my best. The great thing that I have said about him throughout our lives was, you would be lucky to call him your friend. And I mean that. Talented beyond. As a guitar player, as a singer, as a collaborator. Wonderful. Right-hand man. Awesome. Couldn't ask for more.
Yeah.
I was not competitive because it's my band. And I don't think I ever saw that, to be honest.
Yeah.
My heartbreak with him is the way he walked out on us.
Right.
Compounded by the fact that it took him years to come back in the room just to have a meal with Tico and David and I and say, I'm sorry. It's unfortunate. It's heartbreaking. But if what he wanted was to be, just Richie Sambora, not a member of Bon Jovi, do it.
Right.
I always encouraged all of my guys because, just my attitude was, bring the information back that you learn outside. It'll only help us.
And share it, yeah.
And so for whatever reason, he walked out, and then that was that. But I can't defend or accuse and it's just not worth it anymore.
Absolutely.
It's been so many years. I just, if you can't you get it together, then it's not on us.
Right, exactly.
I love the man. Heartbroken that he walked out on us.
Yes.
And that's the best thing I say.
Absolutely. I feel like you were the glue that held the band together. That's got to be so much pressure on just one human to wear all of the hats and then also have to make sure everybody's okay, because you weren't drinking, you weren't doing drugs, you weren't doing the partying, but it seems like as the band progressed and everybody, started, making a lot more money and getting more fame, the vices started coming, and that had to have been pretty heavy for you to have to try to hold everybody together.
I don't deserve all the credit either. I absolutely don't. I really don't. It was a team effort, truly, always. Richie's contributions could never be discounted. Mm-hmm. And then therefore, David and Tico and the poor ghost of Hugh McDonald, because he wasn't even credited as the bass player for many years, while he really was, because Alec wasn't in physical shape. So everybody's contributions is why this worked. Mm-hmm. I don't deserve that. But somebody had to be the quarterback on the team. That's really what the credit I will take, is that I was, driving the car. So I would keep things focused, but couldn't have done it without everyone's contributions.
I love how humble you are, and you're just always...
It's just truth.
Yeah. No.
I don't deserve any more credit than that. It was the sum of the parts made for the whole.
I adore that about you. Playing Madison Square Garden for the first time, it didn't go exactly as planned, and you're up there scared shitless but still rocking it. Was there any other time in your career that you had that you were just as scared as you were in that moment?
I was too dumb to be scared.
Oh gosh,
that night. I do remember it like it was yesterday, which is funny because you know how it is. You can't remember something from last week, but you can remember something from 3 years ago. We were on the stage, Madison Square Garden. The promoter of the show wanted to be our manager, and his play was, look, I can always get you work. Come and open for ZZ Top, Madison Square Garden. We're given a 30-minute opportunity before the record comes out, but it's finished. Other managers all fly in scurrying to try to keep up with this one. We take the stage, Richie's guitar doesn't work, so I have mine on and I have to go, okay, think quick, give him mine, and let's go. So now a 30-minute set becomes 17 minutes because we played like the Ramones. We're like, fastest set of all times. I don't think we were scared. I think we were excited. I think I can remember the crowd chanting ZZ Top. But I can remember with my bar band chops, none of us were afraid of the moment. Mm-hmm. We knew how to handle a heckler. We knew how to sing the songs. It was just twice as fast.
Right.
And I do remember that we probably had more people backstage than anyone ever at Madison Square Garden. You know, like we got yelled
because it was your first time. How exciting. I think we did that too whenever Jay first played Madison Square Garden. I think you're so excited. Sure. You just want to show everybody in your family, like, look, I made it. I'm sold out Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. Slippery When Wet. You named the album after a strip club shower.
True.
Did you ever find yourself in that shower?
No, they would never let a guy up on that stage.
Tell me about the shower.
Vancouver was the Wild West. It was an amazing moment in time. This jewel of a city, before internet, before cell phones, before fax machines. There was no direct flights there. So this was, not the Wild West, but it was a long way away. And the producer of that album, our third album, was willing to do the record if we would consent to come there. Well, we were all single. We were young. We didn't have houses or anything still. We were like, sure, okay, we'll go there. we didn't realize also the city was blossoming. It was coming into its own. It had the World Expo there at the time. And one of the fun things was all the bars were fully nude. They were busy because you'd go there for lunch. You could eat good food in there. And one of the traits at this one place called the Number 5 Orange was that the gals would jump into a shower at the end of each of their sets and soap up. And when the album was originally called Wanted Dead or Alive, we shot a cover all having grown beards and mustaches. So I looked like jelly, right? I had a beard and a mustache, and we had dusters on, which came down to the ground, and we looked like, the silly cowboy gang. And the record company flew up, and they saw the photographs. And basically the PR lady said, "Over my dead body."
Oh, no.
She goes, "Oh, no. Everyone's shaving." She's looking at me, and I'm too dumb to know better. She's like, "Oh, no. Cute boy, go shave that shit off your face."
I thought you looked great with a beard. I actually thought it was hot whenever they showed the pictures in the documentary.
In 1986, it was not going to fly for this third album.
They wanted that baby face.
And Wanted Dead or Alive was not going to be it. So we jokingly said that, the roadside on the way up there, Slippery When Wet, was where the title came from, but it really was this. And we then shot a second cover. In this day and age before fax machines or internet, they sent me a cropped photo. The girl that we found on the beach, the photographer found on the beach, was shot from her bottom lip down to above her navel. Okay, it's her boobs, but she had a T-shirt on and the glass was soaped up. Apparently the PMRC at the time were going to go nuclear and not allow this to happen. So they were like, no. And when they sent me the copy and the cover wasn't working for me anyhow. It was all blue because Xerox would send you a copy, but it was one color. It was varying shades of blue. And I said, "I don't get this cropping. And by the way, what colors are the album cover?" He says, "It's the colors of the picture, but it's hot pink around the entire border to match her lipstick." And all I could think was this was career suicide. And I won't name the artist, but there was a video of an artist who at the time was crawling around in pink sheets on an MTV video. And he was a headliner in arenas and he was done the next day. And I was like, this will kill our career. And the company said, "You Give Love a Bad Name's already on the radio. We've printed 500,000 copies. This album's going out." And I said, it is not going out. And they said, "If we don't have an album cover tomorrow," thinking that I couldn't come up with an album cover. Photographer and I went into his studio. We took a hefty garbage bag, sprayed it with water. I wrote with my fingers, "Slippery When Wet," and I said, "Turn it in." And I said, "If it's good enough for Back in Black, it's good enough for Bon Jovi Black album cover." Boom.
This is like one of the most iconic album covers
Crazy.
ever.
A garbage bag.
It's insane, right?
A garbage bag. Because they didn't have pictures. That's why there's only a teeny little picture of us on the river here. And the picture inside was the driveway of my apartment building, which was just everyone hanging out on the beach.
Isn't it crazy? Like you can try so hard to make an album cover, and then when you don't try, it just goes completely viral.
Yeah,
which viral wasn't a thing back then,
was
but
not a thing.
You were viral.
It was a pretty rotten album cover, but it was a very big record.
It was an amazing.
It was an amazing album, but it shoulda, coulda. I've never been very good at album covers.
I think you've done just fine in your life with album covers.
Yeah.
So during all of this, you are literally just becoming this rock star icon. You are with Dorothea.
Yeah.
And you guys are high school sweethearts.
Yeah.
How did you guys navigate all of these emotions as you're climbing high to rock star status?
Well, the key at the end of the day is that we navigated it together because we were 18 in high school. She's seen every aspect of this. And, when I was playing in the bar, playing cover band music to being in an original band, to having my own original band, like all the way up the ladder. Therefore, nothing was going to be a surprise to her because we were living it together. You know, I was in a rock band, but we were at that age together. So nothing was deeper than the connection that we had.
Right.
You know, that's really what mattered.
You guys did have a brief breakup
Yeah,
in 1985. Can we touch base on that respectfully?
Yeah.
You guys had a brief breakup and you started dating Diane Lane, which you mentioned earlier. Diane Lane's mom was a bunny with your mom.
Correct.
So was that the connection that
None.
you guys?
No.
You never even
We
knew?
met through a guy named Aldo Nova who made a couple records, and we met in 1984-ish. So it was a very brief time that we were together in 1985. But I think that truthfully, after the first record, Dorothea was kind of like, bye, I see you. You took off now. You're gone for 9 months, and, life goes on, and I'm here and you're there, and, where do I fit into this? And so I think that she was not buying what I was selling. So in 1985, I came back going into my second album and went to her parents' house where she lived and, did the whole John Cusack basically standing outside.
I have that in my notes. I swear to God. I said, how did you win her back? Were you standing outside? Yeah.
I was like, to her mom, hey, is she home? Called up a couple times. And then we were playing at the Meadowlands, which is what it was called. And I was just the opening act. But our second album, which had gone gold, I said, would you come? And we're playing at the Meadowlands, and we're going to do this gold album presentation. It'd be cool if you were there. And so we picked it up from there, and it just, thank God, I won her back.
One last question about Diane. Was the song You Give Love a Bad Name inspired by her?
No.
Okay, because there's so many rumors out there. And I was just like,
she was a sweetheart. It was a very brief moment in time.
Gotcha.
Again, it was before cell phones. I didn't have her cell phone. It was like I'd have to call a number to get a hold of her.
Right.
So no, it's just a brief moment in time.
When you and Dorothea got back together and you guys are going on this journey, you guys decide to start having babies. Let's talk about that, because you're a dad and now you're actually a grandpa. How cool is that?
That's cool.
I didn't know until I was doing my research that your son Jake is married to Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah.
How was it meeting her and welcoming her in the family?
She's a sweetheart, and she's a hard worker.
Since childhood.
Yeah. I mean, I tell her all the time how much I admire her because her work ethic is unbelievable. They got married very young, but we blessed it because we get it. They're sort of mature beyond their years. She comes from a family where her parents are still together, and they married very young. Her and Jake fell in love, and we just thought, okay, we'll support this. And it's working out.
And what's it like being a grandpa?
Crazy, but great, wonderful. They adopted a girl, and we met the baby, obviously, and immediately that becomes your grandchild. You know what I mean? Your baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, so it's beautiful. I want to see pictures like every other day. I'm that pain in the butt guy already, and yeah, so it's cool. And our son Jesse and his wife, they're gonna have a baby. So suddenly it's a shift again.
Isn't it crazy just to see life through all the eras?
Yeah.
It's wild, right?
Yeah,
and it's like you can't stop it. Life just keeps going.
It certainly does.
It does not wait for anyone at all. Moving on from all of the great grandpa news and stuff like that, as a father, can you just tell me what your most valuable lesson has been that your kids have taught you?
One thing you come to know in parenting as you get to a certain stage and age is they're all uniquely different. And Dorothea and I have 4 kids. It's a big surprise to me that from the same parents in the same house for all the same years, they're very different.
All different.
crazy.
I always tell everybody you can grow up in the same house, a different home.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now it makes more sense when you think about, where we were by the time Romeo was born. And so, different philosophies just based on living life, but it's still the same makeup. It's had to teach us a little more patience. Like, I'm not the boss anymore. I definitely do not get to dictate the terms, like daddy would be driving, it's like, okay, everyone in the back seat, no more, which takes a little getting used to. But when they grow up and you see what they're doing, it's a moment of great pride, because even though they're going to stumble and they're going to get their knees scuffed up, I like who they're becoming. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty proud. Well, I'm very proud of all 4 of them, because they're uniquely individual and they know where they came from, but they also want to be their own person, which is big. None of them wants to live as the son of or the daughter of.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's hard to let go, though. It's hard because we've been raising one of Jay's daughters since she was 7, and she's 17 now. And this year I've had to learn to let go. And I'm just like, and it's actually kind of working out a lot more, but I'm just like, I don't want to, like I don't want you to spread your wings yet.
Yeah. Right. Because they could get hurt.
Yeah.
But it's part of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about this new tour that you have coming up and this album that is coming out. My husband's on the album. You have a bunch of people. Yeah. Let's talk about it. Take me on this journey, this next era.
June, when the documentary came out, it was going to accompany our album, which was called Bon Jovi Forever. Very, very proud of the record. Very excited about the record. We released the record with the doc, and I'm unable to perform, and I know it. And I have to say to everybody, there's no tour. And in this day and age, which is different than when we began, when you don't support a record by doing TV shows and or touring, that is the day that record dies. Not slowly, not second single, third single, falls off the cliff and dies. There was just nothing I could do about it. And I could have easily wiped my hands of the record, but having lived through 2020 and the COVID issue, and the record before that where I was injured with This House Is Not For Sale, I've been making these records and unable to support them. It was heartbreaking. So with this one, I said, I've got a thought. Let's see. And the bumper sticker phrase would be, with a little help from my friends. So I asked a handful of close friends, I'm hurt. Can you help? Jelly, of course, was the first one. He was right there immediately. I said, would you sing on this song for me? So it'll come out when it's done and I get enough guys. And Jason Isbell was probably second. And Bruce and Marcus King and Warren Treaty and Lainey, who's, I guess, like a sister to Jelly.
Yeah. Well, we love Lainey. Lainey's our Warren Treaty, too. We love them.
Amazing.
Michael and Tanya talked to them today. I love them to pieces.
Me too.
Yeah, they're amazing.
So great people. Joe Elliott from Def Leppard, Avril Lavigne. Just great talents. Robbie Williams. It's incredible. Ryan Tedder. And so then I put this record together, Corinne Leon, for a Spanish version of one of the songs. So I took my Nashville friends, my old, rock and roll connections, girls, country, international, Spanish, so I could try to re-release the record with the intention of giving it life that it deserves under the guise of, with a little help from my friends, and the hope that I will be able to announce some shows finally for next year. And so that's the plan.
Yes.
Plans are made to change, but that is my intention.
And you guys do have intention to tour.
Yeah.
And this can be off the record. We can cut this out too. You haven't announced your tour
yet. No, we haven't
yet.
announced dates yet.
Yeah.
No, there was a rock show over in the singing room yesterday for 2 hours of me doing it on a daily basis. And then, you just hope that it's all going to hold together. But I am healed. The process is what it is. And we're just hoping that everyone else is healthy and that we're going.
It's going to be amazing, and you guys are going to rock it. And the fact that you guys are still selling out places like you guys have done for decades now just speaks volumes of just that your fan base and the people who love you. So I know that the minute you guys do drop this tour, it's going to sell out. People are coming.
Thank you. That would be nice.
Yeah, no, they will. They will. All right. And I have one last question for you. If you could go back to 1985, Jon, standing in front of a stadium crowd, what's the one thing you would whisper in your ear?
Enjoy this. Just step back from the microphone. Take it in. Look up. You deserve to be here. You earned it. Now just enjoy it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Jon, thank you so much for being here today. I am so excited for what you have coming up, and you're going to catch Jay and I at a show for sure.
Yay. Thank you.
We're coming, baby. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Dumb Blonde. I will see you guys next week. Bye.